Okay, so we're here to talk about something that we built with UNICEF, and it's kind of like a showcase, something that we've done and hope to build on in the future. So we'll be just walking through with that. And My name is Abhay. I'm a senior Drupal dev at Therefore Interactive. We're based out of Toronto. I lead the support and maintenance over there. And this is, yeah, go on.
Hi everyone, my name is Anjali Rathod and I'm a Drupal developer at Accelerant Technologies. So today we'll be talking about how we have empowered Drupal, and we have done that with the help of PWA and IndexedDB. So I'll let Abhay talk about the problem and then we'll dive into the solution.
So, let me give you a small introduction on what how we got into the application. So this is something that UNICEF came to us when and they had an application that was using the PWA module. So which it was installable on your devices like an app. And a PWA is essentially a progressive web app, which means that it will have a manifest.json file, which will basically tell the browser that you can install it, and optionally you can have a service worker that caches your pages and your assets. So you have things that and that runs in the background, right? So you load the website for the first time. In the background, all the rest of the pages that you want cached are stored. So, and this was working fine for anonymous users, and what they wanted was that they wanted. So this is an application that allows listing of services like shelters or police stations or health services in places like Afghanistan and Lebanon, where there is conflict, war, and that sort of thing. So there may not always be internet connection, or there'll be choppy internet connection. So the the UNICEF officers wanted to update content while on site, right? And they want to do this even when there's no internet. So with just the PWA, that was not possible. So and even with the PWA, we had scalability issues, which would mean that, say, you want to cache and you're caching HTML pages here. It's not small JSON data or anything like that. So if you want to cache 300 services, it's 300 HTML pages. So that's not really, because on first page load in the background, you're sending 300 requests. So if 10 users are loading it, it becomes 10 multiplied by 300, and that's a problem. So that's and that's why, yep, the PWA module was not sufficient, and we explored many solutions. So there is also with nonprofits like UNICEF, we have a budgetary constraints, so we can't go and build a whole mobile application or like a progressively decoupled or anything like that. So we had constraints. We had a month and a half to do this, and we had to do it inexpensively. So that's when we came to the solution, and I think Anjali will take over and talk about the solution a little bit.
So, first thing, we were using the PWA contrib module, so that helped us to make the whole application available offline for anonymous users. The pages were cached, the listing was available for people. And then the second step was that we had a JavaScript file which did the real work. Like when the application went offline, we had codes written there which helped us to achieve the solution and perform crude operations on nodes while being offline. And then we had written event listeners that helped to give a better user experience. Like there were indicators that showed with colors whether you're online or offline. And most importantly, we had REST API endpoints written, which were used to collect data from the main server and store it in the user's browser, the IndexedDB. And from there, when the user went offline, that data was used from the browser memory, so that there is like no connection with the server side memory, and that's not an issue. And yeah. So in this UNICEF project that we had actually used the web forms instead of the node, because there was a requirement that the officer should be able to uh, add in different element types. Like they should have this flexibility, and they shouldn't reach to us multiple number of times. So all of this made it look like it is the node is being used, but then it was the web form that was being used. Yeah. And then finally, we had a review and submit process, in which when the user was done with all the operations while being offline, we had a review and submit when the user went online. We'll talk more about it, why we had this particular step. And yeah, so now we have a demo, like we've created a video, and let's have a walk through it. So this is not the actual website, but we created just a dummy website so that you can understand better of what we are talking. Yeah, okay. So this is the home page, and you can see that we have an indicator at the top saying that you are connected to the internet. And as we go down, we'll be seeing a list of services that this particular organization is providing. So let's go to the listing page of a particular service, and there's an indicator in, like, on top of all the pages. These are the list of services that we are seeing that are providing helps. And now we'll go offline, and we'll try to access the website. So say now I'm an officer, I'm in an area with no internet connection, I am offline, and let's see how the data is stored in the IndexedDB as well. So I have three IndexedDB with to store the created changes, the changes that were done, uh, edited or deleted. So I'm trying to create a help center. The form is integrated as a modal form, and the mandatory check is also applied, so that the user doesn't miss on any mandatory field values. And yeah, so let's fill in on the values, and when I click on submit, the data will be stored in the IndexedDB. So it's yeah, so I've this is the timestamp I've used, so that there's no the keys are always unique. So now let's try to edit any help center while being offline. So when we do it while we are offline, the form is integrated in the very same place. This is all done with the help of JavaScript. And instead of redirecting to the node edit page. So yeah, let's make some edits and save it offline. So we can see immediately that the changes are reflected, and the changes are stored in the IndexedDB as well. The node ID is being stored, and I have stored like two values, one for original, like what the data was there initially, and the changes data. And then finally, let's try to delete any help center. So if it's not functional and the officer wants to remove it, then they can simply click on the delete help center. And in the IndexedDB, I'm just saving the node of that particular help center that I want to delete. Yeah. And we have an undo button as well. So in case if it was a mistake, we can revert it. But right now, let's just delete it. So with this, say I did my like survey on a particular region, and I am now back to a place where I have regained my internet connection. And now comes the final step, wherein I will have to review and submit the changes that I did while being offline. So as soon as I go online, the page is refreshed automatically. The indicator shows that you are connected to the internet. And there will be this reminder block that will be available on top of each page, because this is an additional step. So that the user doesn't forget this reminder block is helpful. This is the review and submit listing page, where we can see that there are different tags for easy ability to understand that, okay, these are the created, edited, and deleted changes. So let's try review and submitting. It basically takes us to the node edit page, and all the data is pre-filled. The user just needs to click on the save button, and similarly the user has to do for all the changes that they have made. And once the user clicks on save, that particular row is also removed from the IndexedDB. So let's try with the edited one. So the edited data is there. We just need to click on the save button. And similarly for the deleted offline will be redirect. Okay, let's see for the IndexedDB. Yeah. So when we try to delete it, we'll be redirected to the confirmation page, and we can delete it from there. And with this, like all our pending tasks are completed. So the reminder block is also gone. And let us have a quick look on the actual listing page if we have our changes available there. So this is the one that we had created. It's there. And then let's have a look at the one that we edited. And yeah, the one that we had requested for deletion is deleted. So this was a walkthrough of what the actual implementation looks like. Yeah. So let's talk about the limitations. So as we saw that there was an additional step added, like auto syncing is possible in like when the user goes offline, auto sync the nodes that were changed. But there are certain limitations that the server side validations are very hard to implement it offline. So if there are any hooks written, so that sort of implementation with JavaScript is not possible, which is why we had to introduce that review and submit step. And that also helps with the conflict, like if two people are trying to edit the same node, one being online and the other being offline. So to avoid that conflict, we had that review and submit step. The second limitation is that the complex and computed fields are almost impossible to make offline. So say there are lots of entity reference fields. So right now the form that we saw that had basic fields, and there were not many entity reference fields like paragraphs and other. So those fields, to have them offline is a very complex task. Like it can be achievable, because we had a field which had 3 levels of entity reference, but the values were very much static. So that was possible to have offline. Then the third limitation would be that the exact schema of the content type, the form, and the type of fields that are there, the exact schema needs to be replicated in the IndexedDB, because that will help in easy implementation of the forms and saving the data correctly back to the server database. And yeah, since we are using IndexedDB for this implementation, we know that IndexedDB is a browser memory. So if I'm using this particular laptop of mine to perform all the operations using the Google Chrome browser, then I need that laptop and the Google Chrome browser to be able to review and submit it when I'm online. So it's not that it's stored with the account that I'm logging in, but it's in the laptop and the browser. So I'll need that particular device back to review and submit it when I'm online. Yeah, Abhay will talk about the future of this.
Thank you. So yeah, so this is something that we built really custom for UNICEF, and like it's solving a particular use case for that particular thing. So I'm trying to take this and make it more generic, so that we can configure, say, any entity to make it offline, or and I was doing some research into that, and that's when I came across local first architecture, where for logged in users, what the concept is that we should have any data that's relevant to that user should be available locally first in the browser first, and then the rest of it is on the server. So obviously we can't have the entire DB on your browser, but whatever can be on your browser and that's relevant to a particular user can be. And we showed a very simple example in the demo where we used a key value storage. But in actuality, it was the IndexedDB was like your regular database. It had tables, and we had a strict schema. And that's how we were able to build the dynamic form field. So it has to be an input type or a text area. And we need to store that information as well, because another user may be changing that web form. So that needs to be stored as well. So we need the form structure and the form types to be stored along with the actual table. So yeah, what I'm doing with this is trying to have Drupal local first, and it's quite theoretically it's very possible, because we are API first. So getting the data in a structured format to store in your IndexedDB is quite simple, and because it's already there, we just have to enable the endpoints, we get the data, and then even if we want to sync automatically as a background process, we have the API calls for that. It's not hard. And so it's useful in many cases, especially for nonprofits, and we do a lot of work with travel. So for the travel industry, say you have a logged in user, you bought a travel plan, and then you have your itinerary and your other information like your maps. You might not have internet when you're traveling, right? So everything that you need can be made offline. It's a very useful scenario. So how we're going to do it, like I started building on a module which I can try and do this, and that's when I came across the local first architecture, and then I was like, I need to redo the whole thing. So so now what I'm trying to have a configuration so that I can enable offline mode for certain entity type. So, and it's very much possible for us to have layout builder and that sort of thing done offline, like Google Docs. Because say you have a block type you're adding, the block type has specific fields. So again, as I mentioned earlier, we have the schema also stored. We have the structure of that, so the field types. So paragraph has a text field, text area, an image field. That information is available offline. So when you're online, you're sending an AJAX call, it responds with the HTML of the form. When you're offline, we need to create an API that does the same, dynamically create the form offline. And then you're able to store that information on the browser, and then all your layout builder activities are also possible. And the complex part is, of course, syncing of content. What if multiple users are working on it and that sort of thing. So like I am experimenting with like WebSockets and web workers. So my idea would be to have when I'm loading the page, have a web worker open up a WebSocket, so that everybody who's opening up this page is connected to that WebSocket. Any update is made, the WebSocket will notify all the users that are connected, and they will download the latest information, so that when they go offline, that information will be up to date. And when they go online, they'll again do a fetch and then or sync it and see. And so I mean, like, it's unlikely that in our case also with the UNICEF, it was unlikely that one person would edit or two people would edit the same piece of content. But I mean, it's a problem that we are still trying to solve. And if we have, again, with the entity reference fields, we have done certain things. If it's an entity reference field that does not change as much, it's very much possible to make all of it available offline. And we have done that with certain select lists that are actually dependent select lists, and it worked beautifully because we were able to, it did not change as much. Okay. And yeah, so this is what I was talking about earlier, where, so this is my browser. I make an update. It notifies the WebSocket. The WebSocket informs all the other browsers to download, or using in the background process, download the updated content so that your local storage always has updated content. So when you go offline, you have your updated content, and then you make your changes on your local storage. When you come online, you sync it back. And again, this whole process starts again with the WebSockets. So yeah, there are some limitations to this. Of course, on your device, your storage is limited. Sync complexity is something we are trying to solve. And I think one solution is to, if you're online, one thing that we can do is, like in Google Docs, you see an icon that says like another person is also editing. So something like that. So whoever is on that page, you can notify that, okay, there are other people editing this. So, I mean, it has to be human intervention. There's not much we can do apart from that. And browser compatibility. So, I mean, with most of the web APIs, the web workers are, I mean, like, it's Mozilla does not support some, and Chrome supports some, and Safari has always been an issue for PWA. So, yeah. So that's another thing. Hopefully, they've come a long way. Also, even Safari has come a long way. And surprisingly, like 2 years ago, we had some issues, and now it's much more supported. So yeah, and yeah, that's there you go. Who can use it? As I mentioned earlier, nonprofits, travel, government. We have government sites also, because they're mostly static content, and we can really, instead of caching pages as PWA generally does, we can cache in IndexedDB, which is even if you cache like the whole database, it's like text, so it's not going to take as much space as when you're caching HTML pages, which is a lot of data. I guess that's it. Questions?
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I would like to ask first if the experience is the same for logged-in users, because you showed us models, for example. And in common cases, this is serviced by Drupal Ajax routes. So I didn't see any of this. So I suspect that you replaced all this in the cases that you required. All right.
Yeah, so we're using PWA. That's where the PWA part comes in. So the JavaScript and CSS are cached, right? So when you load, so on the first page load, it's cached. So that JavaScript has a code that says when you're offline, switch all the edit add forms to another
Environment.
JavaScript form. Yeah, so it's not an Ajax call. So it's gonna switch all the links.
All right,
And
all right.
when you're offline, you click something, instead of making the Ajax call or making a redirect, it'll open a pop-up, and it will build the form dynamically, because it might change, as I mentioned. So it will loop through a text field, a text area, and then it will just an image field, whatever, and then it will do that.
All right.
So that's how it's done.
So to add to that, the demo that we just saw was for logged in users. So they had permissions to make edits and create. And the first integrated forms that we saw that were on the listing page, that was only for offline. But then when the user was reviewing and submitting, the redirects that were happening, the form pages that we were seeing, like the normal Drupal edit forms, those were the ones that one would see when they are online.
All right. Plus one more. You said in the beginning that you had 1.5 months in order to implement all this. This was with the research time that you had to do.
Yes.
Yes.
And how many people were involved in order to make this all
Yeah,
successful?
just the
Alright.
two of us.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was quite a heck of a job, though.
Because I mean that's the problem with nonprofits is that I mean, and we loved working with nonprofits. I worked exclusively with nonprofits, and I like making things in a budget. So I'm really good at that. So because yeah, so and the timeline's short, the budget is short, and we can't ask them because I mean they're doing something really. This was specifically for the GBV team, the gender-based violence team, where and it's a very good cause, and we really loved working with them, and this is a really meaningful product for us as well. And yeah, so next question. Sorry.
Hi. So I know earlier you said that you found that the standard Drupal PWA modules were not helpful, but did you wind up using any of them to kind of complement the work you're doing? And if so, which ones?
Yeah. So the PWA module helps in caching for anonymous users, and also it's cache. So cache is not persistent. So we needed something persistent. So we're caching all. So the PWA module is helping in cache the JavaScript files, and that is made available offline. So that is executed. That JavaScript file takes care of the IndexedDB part. So yeah, the PWA module is.
We did use the contrib PWA module.
Okay, and just the because I know there's like advanced PWA and
Yeah, not,
No,
we just used the
PWA.
PWA contrib
you.
module.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation. What I wanted to ask is, I mean, in your case, it didn't seem like you were using files like an image upload or something. But have you done any research on how this could be accomplished using a PWA? Meaning that, you know, you can take a picture provided that an API for local storage file access API exists. How could you tackle taking a picture, for example, and uploading the picture to the backend when the user is online?
Right. So, have you
No,
researched? Yeah.
we haven't gotten the chance to do
Yeah,
that.
that's a good
But
point.
then I guess we do have an option to save a file type in the IndexedDB. Like there are certain functions that helps convert in the character format. So yeah, we can explore around that.
And yeah, I would assume I would also store it as like base 64 thing. But yeah, we haven't really looked into that. That's a good. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for coming, and yep.
Thank you.